Welcome to Startups in Action on the CrowdfundBeat.com radio. I'm media mentor Mike Hayes and host of CrowdSuccess. Are you still skeptical about crowdfunding or know somebody who is? Well, anybody who would like to see living, breathing proof and demonstrations that crowdfunding is an absolute groundswell of online and offline activity needs only to visit OneSpark.com and see for themselves the annual crowdfunding street fair that they hold in one city alone with an annual attendance of 250,000, and now that's growing globally. Today on the CrowdfundBeat Radio, while I'm interviewing Elton Rivas, the dynamic CEO of OneSpark.com in Jacksoneville, Florida, I want to show you, as Elton and I talk on radio, I want you to see the sights and sounds of the crowdfunding movement in action for yourself. So I'm bringing you the visuals because I know seeing is believing. So I want to help you see the teeming streets of this crowdfunding festival. Welcome to the visual version of radio. Okay, we're back now, and this time we have Elton Rivas with us, who is the co-founder and CEO of OneSpark.com. Elton, welcome.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on the show.
Let's first talk about OneSpark and the type of crowdfunding portal that you are and what makes you different than other portals.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes us the most different from anything else that's out there is we're a in-person crowdfunding platform. So we actually, for the past couple of years here in Florida, have hosted a crowdfunding festival. And the simple way to imagine that is if you were to take crowdfunding off the web, put it into a city's urban core, have a few $1 million there to kind of get things started that's distributed by investors, by public vote, by different category award winners, and then allow that to actually happen in person. And, you know, the premise is that in early stage, whether it be ideas or companies, people invest in people first and foremost. So this actually provides them with a platform, both the investors and the creators, as we call them, to get their ideas connected to capital that they need, whether it's human capital first and foremost, or secondarily financial capital, and to do that in person with online being a supportive tool.
Is this going to be something that you take on the road? Or are you going to open other offices? Or what are the expansion plans?
Well, you know, the first year we did it, and it was a 5-day event. We had over 400 projects, and 130,000 people showed up, and we said, wow, you know, I think we're onto something here. The second year, we more than doubled the attendance numbers, and so now we have the opportunity to do a much scaled-down version event called OneSpark Start in Berlin this coming September, and from there we'll look at different markets, different opportunities, as we've been approached by dozens. But really, the festival is one tactic for the company. There's a lot of other year-round type of events that we can do as well, and programming we can do to help these creators launch their ideas. The platform itself and the way that the event structure works is that we, with partners and sponsors, put up anywhere between 200,000 and 4 million over the past year in guaranteed monies and also potential investment capital. So we actually bring in kind of both of those different worlds. The creators themselves that showcase their project at OneSpark festivals have the opportunity to tap into these guaranteed crowdfunds amounts. For example, Jacksonville in the first year was $250,000, and that was solely distributed by public vote. The public could also contribute to creators' projects directly in any amount as well for some small rewards, but not equity. We have a totally separate track for accredited investors that are looking to do deal flow with these types of companies.
Are you guys tied into the maker movement at all? And it seems to have the same kind of flavor a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of similarities between the two. OneSpark is open to artists, musicians, to tech startups, to innovators, to nonprofits, all these different categories of creators, and makers is definitely a component of that. So, we do see a lot of people coming and creating and showcasing projects, whether that be hard goods or, manufactured items, or whether that be something that's engineered, or, now in this world and the buzzwords of the Internet of Things, I mean, we see all those types of kind of maker projects that are showcased at OneSpark.
Now, are you going to bring your act out here to San Francisco Bay Area, or do I have to fly down to Florida?
You're always welcome to come over here. April next year is the next event in the States, and that'll be in Florida. As we get through Berlin and as we get through April of next year, I'm sure we'll be announcing some new things as to how something like this will be a platform that scales to many different cities around the world.
Okay, now let's talk about what we kind of started the conversation around, going from idea to a real company. I know that you talked about some potholes that can trip somebody up who have an idea and think maybe that it's worth a fortune or something. Well, what advice can you give to somebody who's carrying around a hot idea in their cranium right now?
We also run an accelerator program called KIN, and the first thing that we talk to our startup companies about before we even sit down with them in the interview process is, how are they taking their idea and moving it into execution? A company, and a successful company, is really very, very simple. It is a great idea profitably executed. And so, to somebody that has a great idea, I think the first thing is to tell somebody else about it and to tell somebody else about it. And as scared as people normally are, it's really, really helpful to get that market validation, that feedback. And then once you find that there's a group of people that say, hey, yes, you may have something here, whether that's somebody that wants to help support it, build it, grow it, or buy it, then from that point forward, it's all about execution. And there's so many times people are fearful of their ideas being taken by somebody else. The reality is that the ideas are the easy part. The execution is the hard part. And so the simple piece of advice, if you take nothing else away, is a great idea is just that until it's executed. And once executed profitably, then you've got a great company.
Well, I couldn't agree with that more. I actually grew up in the Rust Belt of Detroit, and I spent many years trying to really get Silicon Valley ideas out toward Detroit, and they frankly weren't very well received. It's a whole different mindset out here. In fact, one of the guys, co-founders of Startup America Partnership, I asked him, I said, well, how does somebody protect an idea? And he said, are you kidding? You don't. You work harder than the next guy. You work harder, smarter, faster than the next guy, or it doesn't mean a thing. And I thought, okay, so that's the new rules of the new game. Is that kind of what we're playing in now?
Yeah, I think it comes down to, again, just going back to that premise, and there's been, thousands of people way smarter than I that have said it time and time again, but, a great idea is just that. And I think that, we're beyond the world of great ideas being funded. We're in a world right now where great ideas are being supported if, and usually only if, they have a team around them that is executing against said idea. And executing is really just getting some form of traction, right? Traction can be, hey, I had this idea for this product, and I've moved that into this prototype, and I've taken that prototype, and I've found people that are interested in purchasing that. Crowdfunding is obviously a great way, not only to get some early stage funding for your company or your idea, but most importantly to get market validation and feedback from folks. And then from there, moving that into something where, down the road you get, channels of distribution or whatever it may be. But I think the old adage of, taking the game of turning an idea into something that you get a patent around, over the next 10 or 20 years, I think we're going to see that process be extremely disrupted. And those that have the ability to execute better, faster, stronger are the ones that are going to be much more successful.
I like your comment on something I read recently. I think very important. Well, two things. One, I think crowdfunding, the name has become a misnomer because there's so much more to it than just getting the funding, like you talked about, market validation. But two, I really read an interesting study because I tried to put my finger on the crowdfunding spirit. Why do people give? It's interesting, and a lot of people are just kind of stunned and shocked by it that they do, but we see it happen all the time. But I read a university study that people recognize there's a lot of problems around us in the world today. And that just intuitively they've reached a conclusion that they would rather help somebody than just buy more stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
I think we're going through this this convergence of a aging boomer generation with the up and coming social good focus spending power now of the millennials. And when you bring those two items together, you have, a significant portion of the world's population that is interested in the why behind everything. And what I mean by that is if you have a company, a product or service, sure, it's got to be, a great product, good value, marketed well, whatever it may be. But most people are interested in the story behind it. And if there is a good, transparent, valuable story as to why somebody is creating said product or service, and that has some sort of social good associated with it, it doesn't have to be the premier reason, but if it's a good, wonderful byproduct, then that's going to outpace the competition by far.
I would like to end on a sociological note that I think one of the things, and I've been saying this for a long time, being a kind of a media historian, I do believe that it was the advent of mass media in the 1930s that really helped bring us out of the Great Depression. I do believe that the marriage of crowdfunding and mass media can bring us out of the Great Recession. But sociologically, I also think we all have to work together, from boomers to Gen Xers, Gen Ys to millennials. And, we boomers don't understand millennials and they don't understand us. But that's okay because they're good at things and we're good at things. And I think if we all come together with a focus, we can really bring America out of this state, even if we have to do it one startup at a time. That's my take on it.
I was giving a talk a few weeks ago abroad, and people were asking the question about economic development, and we see economic development as a byproduct of the startup ecosystem and these communities that OneSpark helps cultivate. I think the biggest takeaway that we've had, and time and time again, data argues this, is that the single highest rate of net new job creation comes from STEM-related startups. And so if there's ways that we collectively as a community can, and as a community I mean as a global ecosystem, supporting entrepreneurs and startups, can harness and provide pathways for people that are on their kitchen table and they have an idea and they need to get that to the next phase. I think we're going to see a wonderful, kind of upturn in all of these different economies and a great opportunity for all types of people.
Elton Rivas, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
And folks, if you're down and you don't feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, or you're feeling a little glum about the current situation, the news, the economy, take a trip down to Florida. If you want to see some energy and some spark and some life, that's a place you're going to find it. Join Rivas down there with OneSpark.com. That's my advice. Thanks, Rivas.
Hey, thanks so much. Talk to you soon.
That's good. Okay.